Alright, so this is my Dr. Leche HatchHyack deck. This is the Ghost Warrior variant, so there's actually Ghost Warriors in here. So let's go through the list real quick. Obviously, 1 copy of the leader, 4 Frieza Ghost Warrior, 4 Cooler Ghost Warrior, 4 Lord Slug Ghost Warrior, 4 Turles Ghost Warrior, 4 Dr. Leche the Departed Spirit, 4 Toa Dimension Leaper, 4 Supreme Kai of Time Regulator, 4 Goku making an entrance, 4 Hidden Power E Supreme Kai, 4 Further Destruction Champa, 4 The Dark Planet, 4 Power Burst, and 2 Shenron Figure of Majesty. So off the bat, I tried a couple of the other cards from the R side. Didn't like it, so didn't like them because I barely used them, and then when I did use one of them, it was lackluster. So it was mainly the one drop I didn't need. It's like it wasn't necessary. I wish I had other effects. Another thing is I want to point out is it would have been nice if these Ghost Warriors had separate abilities, like critical, barrier, blocker. Would have been nice, right? Double strike, but it doesn't have to have double strike. That could be a little bit too far, especially since I'm already playing double strike in it. But it'd be nice to have crit, barrier. What else was I thinking? Crit, barrier, blocker. You know, some keywords. So that's just me pointing out that they could have been a little bit better, but they're good nonetheless. I mean, 4-drop free plays, can't argue with that. They have 2 abilities. Obviously, you could play them for free by returning 3 black battle cards with an energy cost between 3 and 7 from your drop area to the bottom of your deck. So I consider this strategy a underworld. Underrealm instead of overrealm, because you know overrealm you're warping stuff from your drop area. And here you're putting literally stuff under your deck, so I call it underrealm. Just something I like to say. So I underrealm these cards in order to play these for free play them, right? And then attack with them, the usual. Their second active main, place them into your drop area, and then choose up. And then they have abilities. Choose up to one of your opponent's battle cards, ignoring barrier, and switch it to rest mode. I would prefer this one to warp, and ignoring barrier and warp, right? Because Lord Slug warps the battle card but doesn't ignore barrier, so there's that. And then you got Cooler. He reduces the battle card's power by 10k. I wish he can do leader and battle card, not just battle cards. That would have been nice. But you know, beggars can't be choosers, right? Then Turles, he lets you choose up to 1 battle card in your opponent's drop area and send it to warp, so that's decent. If your opponent has certain things in the drop area and you don't want them to bring them back, you can use this to get rid of them. So this is a really useful effect. Some graveyard hate is always good, especially if you're in the mirror match type stuff. So here's some graveyard hate, that's good. Warping a battle card on your opponent's side of the field based off of their energy, that's always good. Ignoring barrier is nice, but just to rest mode something, not my thing. Not that it's not useful, it's just not my thing. I typically just end up charging Frieza a lot, since I don't really care for that effect much, so I tend to charge him a lot. I'm more of a Cooler fan anyway. Even though his effect is alright, I am more of a Cooler fan. I like Lord Slug a lot. Whenever I do play Dark Planet, he's my main target. The whole warping lets me control the field. Since I'm always focusing on attacking my opponent's leader, since I can only get but so many attacks in a single turn, I attack with my leader to my opponent's leader once I awaken, of course. I attack with my battle card to my opponent's leader, and then after that I can't attack with no more battle cards for the rest of the turn. So obviously I gotta put all my attacks towards my leader. That's just my normal playstyle, but also at the same time this deck forces me to be in that position where it's like, okay, attacking battle cards is not that beneficial to me. That's why I like the fact that these have effects that after I attack I can activate them and then get their abilities to hopefully get rid of something. That's why I like Lord Slug, because he lets me warp battle cards. That way I don't have to attack the battle cards to get rid of them. I just attack my opponent's leader, deal some damage, preferably double strike, and then get rid of my opponent's battle card. That way I can keep some field control, Plus, them going back to the drop area is useful because then you can put them back into your, you know, you can underround them, put them back on the bottom of your deck, and then play another copy of something. And both their abilities are not once per turn. The playing them is not once per turn. The sending them to the drop area to trigger their effects is not once per turn. So in the right scenario, you can play a cooler, then send them to the drop area to reduce something by 10k, then play another cooler, and then do it again, and then you can kill, you know, a battle card that's 20k or less. That's why it would have been nice if it could do the leader, because then you just drastically drop your opponent's leader by 20k, right? That would have been pretty badass. But, you know, beggars can't be choosers. And the same thing with Turles. You know, obviously these can be used more than once. This is good if you're going up against a blocker with barrier. This is useful. Since my whole idea is to attack my opponent's leader, I don't want a blocker barrier stopping me from dealing my opponent damage, right? So this is useful in that regards, but typically I wouldn't be using that effect that much unless there's a barrier blocker. Then yes, this effect will be really, really nice. Especially if I use this to well, I attack, they block with a barrier blocker, and then use the active main on another barrier blocker, and then, you know, just with one card I can make 2 barrier blockers useless, and then attack with my leader to their leader, because I already attacked, therefore I can't attack no more after that. Then we have Dr. Leche, Departed Spirit. He's a blocker, which is nice. When you play him, send the top 2 cards of your deck to the graveyard. So him, along with the Dark Planet field card, is your main mill engine. So you can mill your cards, so that way you can start, you know, putting them back to the bottom of your deck, so that way you can play your Ghost Warriors. So they're your 2 main mill engines. That and your opponent playing Janemba is your other part of your mill engine. And obviously the ability to put battle cards back into your deck makes Janemba not that worrisome for the people who worry about Janemba. And then he has so whenever he comes into play, you mill 2. He's a blocker, obviously, so that's really good. But he has an active main from the drop area where you pay 2 energy, and then your leader being a black machine mutant, which it is, you can play this card from your drop area. So you can obviously, if you have since it's not once per turn, you can play multiple copies of this from your drop area. So if you just so happen to have 2 in your drop area and pay 4 energy, you can bring 2 of them back, mill 4 cards, and then you have 2 blockers. So that's always good. And then, you know, you can always bring them back. So as long as you're always blocking with them, making sure they always go back to the drop area, you can always bring them back for 2 energy and keep milling, and then keep putting them back, the cards back in your deck, underrolling them, and then, you know, keep the fun going. So you're going to be playing the protect the castle strategy a lot. You're more likely going to block your opponent's battle cards, or a leader and a battle card, because remember, they'll get essentially 2 attacks. They'll get their leader attacking, and then they'll get a battle card that attacks. So they'll only get at least a maximum of 2 attacks a single turn, so you need to at least be able to negate 2 attacks a turn, which is better than trying to negate 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 attacks in a single turn, because your opponent's trying to go ham and trying to go wide and try to take you out in a single turn. This deck is good for slowing the game down to a nice slow control where you're blocking, negating. And of course we got Blocker Revenge, which also has the ability to be played from your hand during your opponent's turn by warping 2 cards and paying the 2 energy to play it. Blocker Revenge is always good. Then we have a 1-drop blocker. The archetype does have a 1-drop blocker, Dr. Leche, but his effect is not that great. I don't like it. It's not necessary. The way the deck works, he's not that necessary. He mainly only works to help you get this in from your hand into play, so then you have like 2 blockers, because you block with the first one with a 1-drop, then you can play this one, and then this is another blocker, so you can essentially block 2 attacks. It's a nice little trick, but it's not that great. It's not that great. I'd rather play her where you play her, so you have a blocker, and you draw a card, so she replaces herself. So I'd rather have that. The ability to draw is always useful. And then of course we have, you know, a counter attack, a battle card that can, you know, a counter attack battle card, the usual. So always gotta have them 1 energy blocks. Then of course you got your double strike, which, you know, helps you win sooner than later. This deck doesn't start, you know, doing its thing until turn 3, because you want to awaken your leader and then start swinging with your leader, and then start drawing with your leader's you know, attacks. But on the front side you got a charge from the top of your deck into your under this leader ability. So you put a card under this leader from the top of your deck, then mill a card, then draw a card. So you're taking 3 cards off the top of your deck and doing 3 different things with them. 1 under this leader, 1 into your drop, and then 1 to your hand. Once you have 3 cards under this card, and the only energies you have in your energy area are black, then you can awaken by drawing a card. So you draw a card, awaken, and of course you have to send 3 cards under this card into the drop area. So those 3 cards you ended up putting under this card will help you awaken. So he already has the ability to self-awaken, just say 3 turn thing. So in 3 turns you'll be awakening. So turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. So turn 3 you'll be able to awaken, and you'll get a +1 out of it by awakening. Of course you'll get a +1 from his effect in that turn, plus you drew for that turn, you charged an energy for that turn, so you have 1 less. You have at least 2 cards you gain that turn, because one of them will be energy. But then you'll start free playing and start attacking your opponent. And once you get to 4 energies, then you can go into the Shenron play, and then of course he lets you draw a card, then you trigger an effect. In this deck you have the ability to untap 2 energies, or you have the ability to bring back a 2 or less battle card from your drop area and play it. 2 good targets for that obviously would be Time Regulator and Toa Dimension Leaper. You know, a reusable blocker with Revenge is always useful. It's a good way to defend yourself and to get rid of any problematic battle cards. But you know, a blocker that lets you draw, plus the fact that you already draw from the effect, you know, you're getting 2 for that. 2 for the price of 1. So there's value there, value town. And then of course we have Power Burst, so that we can, you know, recycle some of your 1 drops, which will mainly be Making an Entrance Goku and Time Regulator, so that we can reuse them. Why not, right? Especially a good combo is obviously Power Burst, especially when you use Sparking 5 on Power Burst to add this back to your hand. Then use the 1 energy you had probably left up to use Entrance, and there's 2 attacks you were able to negate. You know, basic plays. So everything here is pretty much self-explanatory. Not much else to say. You mainly want to use the double striking with the leader is really good, because he will always be a 30k when you do that. You attack, he becomes 20k, you draw a card, then you pay 1 energy and give him 10k extra plus double strike. So he'll be a 30k double strike, which is always a good number for, you know, double striking. But of course you can always use some cards in your hands to boost them up, especially, you know, some of these Ghost Warriors, because you'll just put them right back in the deck in order to play a Ghost Warrior. So there's always that. And you know, obviously typically you'll attack with the leader, double strike, and then you'll bring out one of these Ghost Warriors and then attack with them, and then try to do double strike again. So you try to at least do 4 damage a turn. If you play cards right, should be able to do 4 damage a turn, and should be able to win at least 2 to 3 turns. So this is more of a mid-range deck, because of the things, you know, you don't start really doing anything, you know, when it comes to damage or anything like that until turn 3, mainly because you're trying to awaken your leader, and then your leader is going to be one of your main attackers, and then you're just going to throw in a Ghost Warrior to back them up and get, you know, some extra damage in there. But then you're going to be playing the wall strategy, right, the whole block strategy, negates. So you're going to be protect the castle, and then just strike from there. Strike, double strike from there. And that's the end of the video.